We're going to be taking a look at some unbelievable animals discovered in Africa that are not from Earth. Number 10, the hammer-headed bat. Alright, a regular bat can be a little creepy on its own, but this one is just on another level. In fact, the hammerhead bat is actually classified as a megabat because it is so much larger than your typical bat species you would find in most places. The hammerhead honestly looks like someone took a horse's head and smacked it onto the front of a giant oversized bat and called it a new species. This head can also be attributed to its incredibly loud honking call that it uses for mating, which means the bat is considered to be a bit of a pest in Africa. However, that doesn't stop some people from hunting and eating the bats because apparently they're a tremendous source of protein. But that can also be incredibly dangerous as hammerhead bats are believed to be natural reservoirs for the Ebola virus, which can be transmitted from animals to humans and could lead to a global pandemic. So the hammerhead bat doesn't just look weird, it can also be very dangerous. Number 9, the shoebill. Turns out the hammer-headed bat isn't the weirdest winged animal that you can find in Africa. That's because the shoebill is a real thing and definitely looks like a bird that may have traveled to Earth from another planet. In fact, this crazy looking bird was originally classified as a stork, but scientists have since changed their stance on it and have placed it in its own family. The shoebill does look like it could be a very distant relative of the pelican, but it has many unique characteristics that ensures it is not related to any other bird on Earth. It has an absolutely massive beak that it usually keeps tucked into its chest until it decides to decapitate its prey with tremendous force. It also has a pretty unique feather pattern that usually comes in dark blue and gray and almost makes it resemble the buckbeak from Harry Potter. The shoebill will spend most of its time hanging around swamps and other damp areas hunting fish, and although they can be pretty slow moving, it probably wouldn't be a wise decision to mess with a 4.5 foot tall bird. Number 8, Ai. Although it may be pretty easy to assume that this is some sort of demented crossbreed created by humans, this is actually just another one of Mother Nature's weird creations. It has bat ears that are stuck to a possum-like head, teeth from a mouse, and almost human-like hair, but somehow it is classified as a primate. It's safe to say that it is the weirdest primate on Earth just based on appearance, but it also is considered a very bad omen in African cultures. Classic lore states that Ai's are actually symbols of bad luck, and some even suggest that they must be eliminated as soon as they are seen, but this unfortunately means that the species is now endangered. However, it is pretty fair to say that those glowing yellow eyes, long skinny claws, and giant gaping mouth would be a pretty scary sight at first glance. Ai's can also hang down from branches using those same claws to catch flying insects, but having a casual encounter with one dangling in front of your face would definitely be a shock to the system. Number 7, spiny bush vipers. All our lives we've been told that dragons are not real, so if there's an animal on Earth that resembles one, it would be pretty safe to assume that it came from another planet, right? Well, behold the prickly bush viper that is technically a type of snake, but definitely looks like it has some dragon-like qualities. It has extremely keeled scales that cover its entire body from its tail to its head and give the bizarre snake a bristly and spiky appearance. And it's not just their mythical appearance that makes these creatures so interesting either. This special kind of viper is actually one of the deadliest snakes on Earth as it carries a lethal type of venom that it uses to strike its prey. The spiny bush viper can also disguise itself in many different ways as it can blend in perfectly with plants thanks to its green scales and medicine green eyes, but it can also hang from tree branches and catch its prey from above. So while it may be tempting for some people to run their hands along the snake's scales, it's definitely not a very good idea. Number 6, greater kudu. Antelopes are pretty cool looking creatures, but the greater kudu is definitely the most interesting of the bunch. While its body may not be the most shocking thing in the world, it's its giant horns that are sure to attract a ton of attention. The horns that can be found atop a greater kudu's head have an incredibly unique spiral pattern that makes it very distinguishable from other antelope species. It definitely gives the unique creature a majestic look that makes it seem like it was taken out of a Disney movie and placed into the real world. And those curved horns are no small features either, as they can actually measure up to 180 centimeters in length. Greater kudus are pretty abundant in Central and Southern Africa and can usually be found living in heavily wooded areas since they are prime targets for larger predators that are looking to feast away on them. Thankfully, Thankfully though, they are not even close to being considered an endangered species, so we will be seeing more spiral horn kudus for a long time. Number 5. Lowland streaked tenrec. When you're thinking of countries in Africa that are filled with weird animals, Madagascar is probably the first one that comes to mind. There's a boatload of weird creatures that call the island nation their home, but the lowland streaked tenrec might be the most interesting of them all. Just from taking a look at this thing, you can already tell that it is unlike any other creature that is inhabiting Madagascar or Africa as a whole. It is relatively small in size, but it has a ton of porcupine-like spikes on its back that have some unique yellow stripes running through them. It also features a rather long beak that is surrounded by a mane of bright yellow spikes that really makes it look like a real-life version of Zapdos, just without the wings and the ability to use Thundershock. This special type of tenrec is also known to be quite social, as they usually gather in groups of up to 20 at a time and patrol Madagascar's lowland rainforest for grubs and other food. Number 4. The Aardvark. This one may not seem that weird compared to the others since we are all very familiar with it, but that shouldn't take away from the fact that it is still one very bizarre looking animal. Seriously, it really is just one of those animals that looks like a weird mashup of a bunch of other creatures all mixed together into one strange crossbreed. Aardvarks have pig-like bodies with pig snouts, bat ears and long rat tails, and all of that is topped off with some really long claws that it can use to accomplish a variety of different tasks. The bizarre creatures are also known to move around frequently, as they are constantly using those big claws to dig new burrows that are cleverly hidden from any potential predators. It also has some interesting sensory organs on its snout that it can use to detect movements underground from its prey, and makes it very easy for them to catch bugs. Long story short, this animal is just really bizarre. So much so that the name Aardvark actually means earth pig in African. Number 3. The bat-eared fox. What is it with animals in Africa that just look like weird crossbreeds? While it may technically be considered a fox, it doesn't really share many visual characteristics with the traditional red foxes we are all familiar with. It has a very unique gray and white fur that resembles a wolf or a lynx, and a shrunken head that looks like it has evolved well beyond the point of being considered a fox. And of course, those strange ears that have earned it its very unique name that stand way above its head and can measure up to 13 centimeters. We've already seen that there are some really interesting and scary bat species living in Africa, so it only seems natural that other animals would take on some of their characteristics. Bat foxes really seem to enjoy the company of other bat foxes though, as more than 70 of them have been recorded living together within just a single square mile, suggesting that they are pretty easygoing creatures. But even if they are pleasant and friendly, it doesn't take away from the fact that they are very strange looking. Number 2. Black rain frog. Frogs are nothing new to Earth, but with so many different species of them living on our planet, humans were always bound to find a few that looked otherworldly. Case in point, the black rain frog that calls Africa its home, and it has some rather unique traits that differentiates it from its frog relatives. Aside from its obviously grumpy looking face, there aren't too many frogs that can say they look like avocados with legs, and that is thanks to the black rain frog's bumpy dark skin that is covered with small knob ends instead of warts. But this special frog is also unique in the fact that it cannot hop like other frogs and is only limited to walking on all fours. And just because it wanted to be even more different from other frog species, the black rain type doesn't require water for nesting, as the females actually lay their eggs in underground nests and leave the males to And just because it wanted to be even more different from other frog species, the black rain type doesn't require water for nesting, as the females actually lay their eggs in underground nests and leave the males to defend them from predators. And speaking of defense, the black rain frog can puff itself up to scare away anything that might even attempt to get at its eggs. And number 1, the pangolin. There are plenty of animals in Africa that could claim to be the weirdest of the bunch, but the pangolin is probably the undisputed champion when it comes to otherworldly creatures. These scaly beasts look like they have been covered in some sort of armor and are ready to head into the heart of battle. These scales are used as a defense tactic to scare away predators, but are also quite sharp and can seriously hurt anything that dares to mess with the pangolin. These creatures are mainly nocturnal, so seeing one out in the wild can prove to be rather difficult, but it uses the night to its advantage to help stay clear of its enemies. Pangolins are also sometimes referred to as descendants of the dinosaurs thanks to their unique skin and rocky heads, and it's pretty easy to see why someone would make that comparison. They really don't look like any other animal on Earth and are one of the wildest creatures to ever be discovered on our planet, let alone just in Africa. And that does it for a look at the unbelievable animals discovered in Africa that are not from Earth. Let us know which one was your favorite in the comments below. Don't forget to hit like and follow for more videos.